And there's a story about a Buddhist who was asked to chant like 6 hours a day of mantras by his guru. And he said, this is so many mantras. Why so many? The guru said, for lifetimes you've been chanting the mantra, give me more, give me more, give me more. You have to chant a lot of mantras to make up. You got to get ahead of the game. So people often think it's going to happen very quickly, and we don't realize how conditioned we are. And we are getting purified slowly, but we want it faster because it's the fast food culture, and sometimes we lose patience. In the Bhakti teachings, there are verses that say, "Be patient." Why do they say that? Because they know this is the mentality that we want it fast, Like when I was a teenager, it was the hippie era. So all we had to do was pop some LSD and have all our spiritual realization. That was pretty easy, pretty fast. Only takes like 15 minutes to digest, and, you have the whole day of wowie zowie, But it's not like that. As with anything, it takes work. And when you're trying to become self-realized, God-realized, that's the most difficult. So it's gonna take time. But the path is beautiful, and the result is beautiful. And the Gita, it said that when you get it, you think, okay, this is nothing better. So if you're going to get something that's nothing better than this, it's going to take a little work. So just as a little encouragement, just keep on the path.
Shama, patience.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to another episode of For Soul's Sake, a podcast in which we aim to give you candid, honest conversations on spirituality without the woo-woo. We're trying to build relationships with our speakers that bring us educational moments, that bring us opportunities for growth, bring us opportunities for learning. And today's guest is someone that just before we press record, we seriously got into some deep stuff already. So I'm super excited about this conversation. We're joined today by Mahatma, a renowned spiritual teacher, an author and motivational speaker, known for his profound insights and practical guidance in the realm of personal development and spirituality. With a wealth of experience and a deep understanding of human nature, Mahatma has touched the lives of countless individuals, helping them overcome challenges and find fulfillment. Born and raised in a diverse cultural background, Mahatma developed a keen interest in exploring the depths of the human mind and its connection to the spiritual realm from an early age. His journey led him to study various philosophies, religious traditions, and psychological principles, allowing him to assimilate a holistic perspective on personal growth. Through his books, lectures, and workshops, Mahatma empowers individuals to discover their inner potential and take charge of their lives. He offers practical tools and strategies to overcome self-limiting beliefs, manage emotions, develop healthy relationships, and cultivate a deep sense of purpose. His teachings emphasize the importance of self-awareness, compassion, and service to others as essential elements of personal and spiritual growth. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
It's an honor and privilege to have you here.
Thank you.
I just genuinely wish that we'd started recording maybe 2 minutes before we got into the live recording. But I want to jump in where we literally just press record. We spoke just then about spiritual leadership and the assumption that spiritual leadership means that you are already imbibing compassion and kindness. That seniority means that you automatically have a level of kindness that's innately there. Do you think that's true? Is that a fallacy? You've been around in bhakti circles for many years.
Yeah. Well, there's this beautiful saying that you don't really know. You can't really understand the character of someone until you give them power. Because when you give them power, things can completely change. Without that power, they might be okay, nice, compassionate. So what I've seen personally is that when we follow a spiritual process, we make assumptions that this spiritual process is going to take me to a certain spiritual place, like we're talking about compassion. It's an assumption based on the text, the sacred text. If you follow this process, these are the qualities that will develop. You're a divine being, so these divine qualities will manifest more and more and more. And so sometimes we make that assumption to the point where we believe we have those qualities when factually we don't. And there's a kind of a cognitive dissonance where we don't actually see what we're doing. We're shaming someone in the name of compassion. We're actually abusing them. We're hurting them. It's hurting their spiritual life. It's hurting them psychologically. And we think, oh, this is my compassion. It's something other than compassion. It's our own healing that we need, but we don't realize it, And so we can use that excuse. Well, it's just for your benefit.
That sounds like a tragedy, though, that, someone can be practicing a spiritual path for a number of years and still maybe not have developed loving compassion and kindness towards others, but we just assume it, and therefore so many people get let down by spiritual leaders. This is like a recurring theme of people that I meet that just say, I love everything about spirituality, but I don't appreciate institutions or religious institutions because of this fact that people at the top abuse power or don't seem to mean what they say and say what they mean. They talk about compassion, they talk the high game, but then don't really embody that. How can we avoid falling into that trap ourselves? Because yes, they are who they are. Mm-hmm. We all can give examples of those people at the top. How do we avoid becoming hard-hearted individuals on the spiritual path?
That's you have a few hours to answer that question.
I've got as long as you've got.
There's this word introspection. So spection means to see and intro means inside. And the eyes go out. So we see everybody else's faults. That's like so obvious what's wrong with everyone. But to see my own faults, to have an objective understanding of where I'm at is extremely difficult unless we cultivate it. Like we have to want to cultivate it. And there's not a lot of people that are very interested in healing themselves and looking at their traumas and their conditioning and so forth. So when you were talking, I was saying, yeah, leaders are meant to be compassionate, but we bring all this baggage into the spiritual realm because most of us started spirituality in our 20s or 30s or 40s or 50s. There's a lot of baggage there. So now a lot of times we're placing the good on top of the baggage. We're not like throwing the baggage out, healing that baggage. So when we put the good on the top, we think that baggage is like disintegrated. But then you give someone a leadership position and all of a sudden that control or the anger comes out, that abusive nature, I've seen it in myself, I've seen it in others. But I've tried to be introspective so that I can look at it and say, okay, here's this demon within me. I don't want to be treated this way by anybody. I'm not going to treat other people this way, and I'm going to work on healing myself. Just like I tell people, before you get married, you have to heal yourself because you can't marry a person and give them the worst version of yourself, that you love them and you're going to show up with all these traumas that are unhealed and you're going to, find fault in them for your own issues and they're not, blame them for just being themselves. So I think it's the same way in any relationship, whether it's marriage or spiritual leadership or whatever.
It just sounds so idealistic, though, like to heal oneself before I enter a relationship. That could take years. I'll probably be single forever. I understand the concept, like never enter a relationship thinking that person is going to heal you of all the baggage that lies underneath. Yeah. Completely makes sense. The reality, though, is that I'm probably never going to be free of that trauma and trigger.
So, that's a good point. So I have to rephrase it then. Start the healing process. Be aware.
Start the healing process.
So I'll give you an example. This is real life. One time, my wife was telling me something. You should do this and don't do that. And I forget what it was, but it triggered me because I've always been extremely independent. So I don't always study things. I just do them and learn by doing, and it's worked out for me. I've done a lot of things quite well without having to read or be trained to do it. Not everything, but it's just my nature. So she's saying, like after I've done like 100 workshops in the last 20 years, you should do, literally, and retreats, this is like what I do. And she says, you should do it like this. And she's done like, 6 retreats in her life, and she's telling me, and I'm like, and I got upset. And like 3 minutes later, I walked in and I said, I'm really sorry for doing that. And I realized that I'm super independent And I learned by doing, and it's very difficult for me to hear. So at least I was aware. I didn't act properly, but I was aware of why I did that. Why am I reacting? Why am I triggered? So I think that's extremely important to understand. And this happened after 40 years of meditating for 2 hours a day. That at least I had the awareness. 20 years before that, I wouldn't have had that awareness, and I would just say, why are you always trying to control me and tell me what to do? And but it's just the male ego is fighting. The female is just trying to be the loving, nurturing, motherly person they are and trying to help. So, but I realize that now. I know you're trying to help, but this is just what I'm like. I'll figure it out on my own. But thank you.
I really your demeanor and character is very attractive, because I think that you are this is the first time we're personally speaking. I've known about you for many years, but just to see how you're accepting that, in one sense, you're fallible, that you have this. And what's impressive about that is because I know you have so many disciples, people that look up to you. You're a spiritual mentor to so many people across the world. And I think that this ability to go, I'm not the perfect article. And I think that's very attractive. I think that's very, very attractive for people. Do you have any words of wisdom for someone that is a mentor? There are people that are yoga teachers out there. If you're listening and you're a yoga teacher, tune in at this moment. You're mentoring people. You're taking care of people. You're guiding people. What does it mean to be a spiritual leader with good faith? What does it mean to be a custodian of faith? What does it mean for you to be?
One of my friends, who's a coach, once told me, he said, "Don't teach it if you don't live it." And I kind of was embodying that idea before he said it, but once he said it, I was like, yes. So what I have found, that if I've lived through it, then I can actually teach it from experience. And I hear a lot of teachers, and I can tell when they've read it in a book and they don't have experience. I can just feel it.
Intuitively.
Yeah, you can feel it, because pretty much predominantly what I teach is from experience. I mean, I have all the book knowledge, it's there, but through my practice, like I teach a course on forgiveness. So it's because I went through the process and I transformed through it, and I understand the details and the consciousness you have to go through. And I'm very vulnerable in the course, like you just said, because that vulnerability helps the students. And if I go, no, I just descended, I'm an avatar, and forgiveness is easy, and nobody will be able to do it. So I say, no, I've been through this. I'm human. Even though I'm doing the spiritual process, I'm human like you. And so many people say, it was your vulnerability that enabled me to forgive, to finally just open up and feel comfortable that, I'm human too, and I don't like this person, and I should like them. So I think that's number one instruction. The number two instruction that I've realized just by doing this for over 50 years is that the most powerful thing is not what you teach, but it's who you are, which is, a similar thing. Because people feel who you are much more than what you teach. And if you teach something and they sense you're not that person, they're like, no, I don't trust this guy, because he's teaching all this love stuff, but when I see him with his wife, it doesn't look lovey, or, with the people that are helping him, he was a little rough around the edges. So I have this little teaching in our forgiveness course at the end. We say, your life is your message, and we have a billboard. Your life is your message. Then the question is, what is your message? Because when you show up, there's a message. Just how you behave, your vibe, everything, people feel it, right? The energy. We all feel people's energy. And when you're around a very elevated person spiritually, you go up. When I was around my spiritual master, I think I changed 180 degrees in like 3 seconds because of what was coming from him. It shifts you. So if you ever meet a very elevated spiritual teacher, you change. Like, you become a different person because of them. Their love, it shoots out and it hits you. So for me as a teacher, it's like I see that all the time. It's like less important what I say and more important that I embody what I'm saying, because if they just understand intellectually, they may not change. But if it gets in their heart, that's where it's going to change. And so if I am the real deal of what I'm teaching, then I see it goes in the heart. I want to tell you this story. This is such a beautiful story. I was in a place called Vrindavan. It's one of the holy places, the most holy places in India. And I was sitting in a temple there, and this very elderly sadhu's like a saint. That's what they call in India sadhu. So he comes in, and he's walking in with this walk, which is like personified humility. It's kind of like he's walking like this and just walking very slow. And he's kind of looking around because he's a very elevated person, and he carries a staff. And in that tradition, the staff is a staff of renunciation, so people respect it. And he's walking in like, I hope nobody sees me. And he's walking in like, kind of like this. And when I saw him, it like penetrated my heart. And immediately I thought, this is real humility. And at that point, I thought, I want to be humble. Like the first time in my life, I know I should be humble. We know that, I should respect other people. But to feel it emotionally, like I want to respect everyone is better than me, not really. That's not how I was raised. Mm. And when I saw him, I was like, oh my God, he is so humble. It's so beautiful. I want to be like that. And I started looking up in the teachings of my spiritual master all the things he said about humility. And the funniest thing was, before I looked it up, I was thinking, why didn't my spiritual master talk more about humility? It's like so important. Why didn't he talk about it? And I looked it up, and there were like 20 billion references to humility. So I didn't see it because I didn't want it. And I was like, oh, that's how it works. When you don't want it, you don't see it. But when you're with a person who's got it, it's like, boom, goes right. There's not even an intellectual process. It goes right to your heart. I was like, oh. So that was such a powerful experience that, when you embody the quality you're teaching, it goes directly into a person's heart.
That's the way of transformation.
Yeah. It's almost like sometimes you don't have to teach it.
I mean, it's something that I think a lot of people will be attracted by, the concept of finding a teacher that embodies what they speak. Yeah. We live in an age where people are very much rejecting guru culture. Mm-hmm. I heard once someone say in the wellness scene that the age of the guru is dead now. That, we're moving away. Everything is self-actualized. Everything is self-realized. You can figure it out by yourself. The books are there, blah, blah, blah. You don't need to teach. How to go about, okay, let's paint the picture. Susan, living in the UK, doesn't have any access in one sense to finding a spiritual. Does she need to go to India? Does she need to, what's the steps, the step-by-step process to finding a mentor who is, just as you said, embodying that truth? How do you go about it?
So let's start with the first point. Do you need one? And if we establish that you do, then how do you know who that person is? How do you find them? So I've given a lot of thought to this because I'm well aware of, because I'm an independent person, why not just find it yourself, And all of us who have gurus now discovered so much before we had a guru. We had realizations, because the divine is within us and he speaks to us. And if you're looking for divine realization, he starts guiding you. But there's the saying, when you're seeking the truth, then the guru will appear. Like you have to be ready. So what that means is you've come to this threshold, like you've gone as far as your mind can go. In your present state of consciousness, you can realize a lot, but you're going to need help to evolve beyond the limitations that embody material existence so you can realize more. So there's a beautiful coaching question, and you always ask this question when someone says, well, I'm doing this, and I think this is good. You ask the question, how is it working for you? So you don't have a guru, and the question is, okay, how's that working for you? But I want to give the answer, because you may not know this answer. This is how it's working for you. If you understand karma and reincarnation, it's working for you by keeping you in this cycle of birth and death. So every life, maybe you're learning a little more because you've got some realization or you're doing some spiritual practice. But until you can liberate yourself, it's not working for you because you've got part of the equation, but you don't have the whole thing. So the idea of having a guru is he's going to pull you out of that cycle, right? And that's all the sacred teachings say. You can't pull yourself out. That's the problem, because you have limitations mentally, spiritually, in every way. Not you, we all have limitations. So we can go high, but not beyond that samsara, birth and death cycle, samsara. So you need a guru to pull you out. So that's the answer to the question, how it's working for you. It's not completely working. It's okay. But you want to come back again and take birth again and again. I really didn't like going to school that much. I don't really like working that much. I don't really want to go back in that cycle if I can get out of it and go to some place where I'm experiencing divine bliss and happiness eternally. So that's the first answer. But the second answer is what I just said. How do you find a guru? You have to want one, and you have to realize your limitation. Like I first read this book, Bhagavad Gita. That's a book that changed my life. It's like kind of the essence of Indian philosophy. And when I was reading it, I was like, I know this, but I couldn't put that. What I was reading, I knew it intuitively, but I couldn't put it in words. Mm-hmm. So when you meet a guru, it's like, yeah, everything he says is like, or she, yeah. It's like, oh yeah. But I couldn't put that in words, but now it all makes sense. And all of a sudden you feel this person is just taking you to see something you could never see on your own, to experience something you could never experience on your own, to have a spiritual desire much stronger than you could ever awaken on your own. That's how you know, oh, this person, because if he can only help me see what I already know and he only says what I already, then why do I need him? Mm-hmm. He's not bringing me to a higher level.
Okay, so on the assumption, first you understand that, do I need a guru? Do I need to find a teacher? And then assimilate that is a desire for you. Mm-hmm. Do you think gurus are only in institutions? Do you think that someone has to walk into the door of a church, a mosque, a temple, a yoga center to find a guru? How does one, like, practically, do I need to go and buy a ticket to India and travel and live in the Himalayas? And I mean, those of you that have read The Journey Home by Radhika Swami speaks about this arduous journey to India. Right. The desire is there. Now what?
Yeah. Well, that's the first thing. You have the desire. Sometimes I joke with people because I'm a spiritual teacher, a guru also, and some people will say, I want to be a disciple, and I joke with them. I go, why would you want to be a disciple? Why would you want someone to tell you what to do? Like, why would you want that? So I'm half serious, half joking, and they're at this point where no, I want you to tell me because my mind is telling me and it's not working. It's getting me into trouble, So it's like they realize ultimately you have two choices: your mind or the mind of somebody higher than you who's already where you want to be. So that when we have this relationship, although I'm part of an institution and I have my own organization, but the relationship is transcendental. It transcends that because they don't have to be in the organization because I'm guiding them. They're taking that guidance and they're utilizing it within an organization or outside or however they want to do it. And so you don't need to go to India. You just need to have the desire. You need to have the realization that you need help, right? And until you have that realization, even if the guru walks in front of you, I'm not going to see it. No, you won't because you don't need it. Like I wasn't ready for humility for like, that was probably after 35, 40 years of my spiritual practice. That day I was ready because it hit when I saw that person was a guru to me just by appearing. So if you're ready for something, if you're ready for a guru, and there'll be some transformation in hearing and being with that person, some deep inspiration and deep realization. And it doesn't really matter technically, organizationally. That's just, the organizations are there for functioning, for giving people sangha or association, a place to go, or for in an organization who can bring people, who can educate people to publish books and do programs and like this. So you need some organization. But this is completely beyond any organizational, or what to speak of. My spiritual master is no longer alive, but the relationship is existing transcendentally. Like, we can feel him, he can speak to us. We feel like he's right here with us. That's nothing to do with the organization. Sometimes in the organization, you might feel like maybe he's not so strongly felt within the organization. I feel it more strongly within my own relationship. So it can be like that.
Wow. There you go, Susan. There you go, John. That's how to go about finding guru. If you missed that and you were in a melee of doing other things while you're listening to the podcast and you felt like, oh, that was a good point, then feel permission. This is your permission opportunity to rewind, re-listen to that, because I know we live in an age of entertainment where it's just everything has to be on the fingertips. I need to learn it. I need to realize it now. But I think there's a beauty in just going, okay, I need to re-listen to that. So even if you have a guru, maybe it's a case of re-establishing the connection with that teacher, with that guide. I think that this last 5-minute section, 10-minute section of this podcast was really powerful to, in fact, I want to listen to it back as well myself, to re-assimilate or to have a relationship with the spiritual teacher, guide, and guru.
You said something I want to just comment on.
Let's do it.
You said we want it fast. So for anyone who's on a spiritual path, any of you out there on a spiritual path, this came up yesterday in a workshop. Why does it take so long? And there's a story about a Buddhist who was asked to chant like 6 hours a day of mantras by his guru. And he said, this is so many mantras. Why so many? The guru said, for lifetimes you've been chanting the mantra, give me more, give me more, give me more. You have to chant a lot of mantras to make up. You got to get ahead of the game. So people often think it's going to happen very quickly, and we don't realize how conditioned we are. And we are getting purified slowly, but we want it faster because it's the fast food culture, and sometimes we lose patience. In the Bhakti teachings, there are verses that say, be patient. Why do they say that? Because they know this is the mentality that we want it fast, Like when I was a teenager, it was the hippie era. So all we had to do was pop some LSD and have all our spiritual realization. That was pretty easy, pretty fast. Only takes like 15 minutes to digest, and, you have the whole day of wowie zowie, But it's not like that. As with anything, it takes work. And when you're trying to become self-realized, God-realized, that's the most difficult. So it's gonna take time. But the path is beautiful, and the result is beautiful. In the Gita, it said that when you get it, you think, okay, this is nothing better. So if you're going to get something that's nothing better than this, it's going to take a little work. So just as a little encouragement, just keep on the path.
Shama, patience.
Yeah, you'll get it. But it's going to take time. And a lot of times you're actually getting it and you don't realize it, because when you're on the spiritual path, you become more introspective. So you become more aware of what's wrong with you. And you think, oh, but there's so many things wrong with me. Maybe I'm not progressing. Like, no, you are, because before there were things wrong with you, you didn't realize it. They didn't come from nowhere. They were in there. So sometimes if instead of getting discouraged when you see something inside that's coming out, and you think, oh my God, I'm meditating, it's coming out. It's like, no, it's a good sign.
The process.
Yeah, now you can see it. You didn't see it before.
That's interesting, because when I started along this path of sharing mantra, kirtan, and now this podcast, obviously, like, there's a part of it that's name and fame. You want to try and build a brand. You want to try and reach the masses. You want to be the dude that did it. And so in the initial part, it was very strongly attached to that. And I've noticed that through the process of sharing, first and foremost, I need to have more substance. And that's been a really strong point. But I've noticed that over time, there's been this purification that's coming. And my spiritual teacher, my dear guru, he said it once. He said, I have one disciple in London, and he's trying very hard. And yes, it will come. It will all come to fruit, only to realize that it wasn't about that anyway. And it's starting. Like, I've noticed this bubbling is starting to come. The more the growth is happening, the more I'm noticing this bubbling to the surface of, is this really what I want? Is this really the aim of my life? And it's become somewhat clearer that there are some things that need to be purified. And I'm overjoyed because it gives me so much faith that the process of being of service, the process of trying to love God through tangible service is working. It's making me realize that I need to be more focused in my practice. It's given me all, and I think that that's something that I want to encourage you, that if you feel that your sadhana, your daily practice isn't really working the way you envisioned it would, that take up a mission in your life to try and share whatever you have with others, and slowly the reverse engineering happens. You start, well, this is my personal experience, I'm starting to realize more and more the value of personal practices, the value of reading every day, of chanting every day, and even though the vows were there, now I'm seeing the meaning and the value of those vows. So thank you so much for sharing that. I want to take a little detour into another avenue. Yeah, please,
just
please,
one
please.
point, because I'm in a similar situation, and one thing that always comes to me, like we both do kirtan, and sometimes there's lots of people in the kirtan going, wowie, 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 this is fantastic, and coming up to you later and saying, that was like the best kirtan, and I've never, experienced, it's like, and one time I was doing kirtan, and that was happening, and a very strong realization came. It also comes when I'm teaching as well. A very strong realization came was that it is a gift if I can help another person spiritually. But I'm actually not helping them. It's divine empowerment. I'm just an instrument. And ego means, no, I'm not an instrument. I'm doing it. It's because of my kirtan, my presence, my consciousness that people are evolving. And so, you have that battle going on, because you know what it is. It's empowerment. You're an instrument. And the ego's saying, no, you're cool. You can sing well. And, you've got the cool tunes and the cool look and whatever. And so right in that kirtan, I was thinking, and it was very clear. It was being revealed to me. We say Krishna in the heart, God in the heart, revealing to me the Supreme, your local GPS in the heart. He was revealing to me, if you think you're doing this, I'm going to take the potency away. You're never going to be able to affect people's hearts because I'm the one who's doing it. And as long as you realize that I'm doing it, I will give you the power. I will give you the resources, the intelligence, and the ability. And it was very deep. It was very profound. So my message to the world, all of you out there, whenever you do anything, ask yourself, why am I doing this? Like, what's the reason? Am I doing it for the right reason? Am I doing this so I can get accolades, prestige, wealth, followers, and like that? Or am I doing that to serve, to help people? And if I'm doing it to serve and help people, I'll get more will come because I can utilize it. But if I'm doing it for myself, okay, great. So now you're famous. Okay, what's next? That didn't work. Right. So now, and you cheated so many people, you're using them, to get a fan club. You're giving out mantras. Like, what could be, if it's rock and roll, okay, that's understood. You're on stage because you want all the pretty girls to jump up and scream. Okay, everybody knows that. We don't have to hide that. And I've been there and done that. But when it's mantra and you're doing it, to get the sexy girls, oh my God, like that is like so bad, right? Or you're giving spiritual knowledge so you can be revered as a guru. No, your position is to serve, that's all. And if that's your motive, you will be used and you will be successful. And anything else, you're going to crash. And sometimes what will happen, if you're a steward of spirituality and you misuse it, then the Supreme will say, okay, your stint is over. We're going to pull you out, and you'll fall to some kind of temptation. And, we see it all the time. In the yoga scene, in the religious scene, in the corporate scene, it's everywhere. And it's like, okay, I can't use you because it's all about you and not about me. So, okay, forget it. You're out. You're out of here.
I couldn't be nodding more furiously because you're affirming where I'm at. Well, not so much where I'm at, but it's been a journey to realize this point. And why it's so affirming is because you're my senior. You're someone that's lived this path much, much longer. When I was in diapers, you'd already realized this. And so it gives me faith that this is the keep walking the path, basically.
Yeah.
And fine, my motives may not be 100% pure. I don't know if they ever will be. But one thing that I've noticed, and maybe you can comment on this, is that when one tries on the path, and even if they're not perfect, but when one tries, a sure sign that you're on the right path is you seem to be blessed with good sangha, that you get the opportunities to hear from saintly persons, you get to be corrected and nudged. And, the plane is famously known as never being 100% on course. When a plane is on its journey, it's understood that 80% of the time it's a little bit this way or that way. Only 20% of the time it's actually on the course, the line that it's on the way to its destination. And so one thing that I've been seeing more and more is this amazing gift of sangha, you can see that you're advancing on the path, or I don't want to use that, it sounds quite puffed up, but you can see that it's working when
you're making progress.
Yeah, that you're getting the opportunity to have sangha, good association, spiritual association.
Yeah. I want to take this point a little bit, because you made it clearly. I want to take it a little broader, perhaps.
Let's do it.
In my own life, I had an experience with drugs, because that was just normal. It was like, I guess for us, that was like beer for
people. What is this, the 60s, 70s?
The 60s, 65, 66, 67, 68. So I'm having this experience with drugs, and I'm feeling like ecstasy, like really happy. And I'm thinking the whole time, why do I need to take a drug to make this happen? It has to be within me, It must be. It just can't be dependent on a drug. It was very strong intuition. So then I was like, okay, I have to find out how to do this. I'm looking. And then one day I end up in a bookstore, and I was not reading books at that time. I was intellectual, but somehow or other, at that point in my life, I was more physical. I was doing sports and, music and surfing and skateboards and, just like active. And that's what I did. And I'm in a bookstore, and I'm walking around the bookstore, and I'm thinking, like, why am I in this bookstore? Like, I have no idea. This is, like, so weird. And then there's a book on the shelf. There's a lot of books in a bookstore. One book. Beep, 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 beep. Read me. And I pull it out. It's Bhagavad Gita. I was like, whoa. And then as soon as I pulled it, I had no idea what it was. This little voice inside said, you need to read this book, right? And so I didn't have any money, but like the next day, this was in Berkeley, California, I was registering for a class, and there was a monk at a table, and a sign that said, Bhagavad Gita class, 4 units, which meant it was a university class taught by the monk at his temple, which ended up being a Hare Krishna temple. I'm like, okay, sounds good, And so I was writing about this. Years ago, I was writing about my experience, and I was looking, it's so interesting to write about past experiences because you relive them by writing them. And I'm thinking, everything in my life led me to this point where I could get the Bhagavad Gita and then learn it from the monks at the school I was going to. And I had plenty of time because I wasn't taking many courses. It all fell into place. So when you were saying we get the Sangha association, it said, like, when you want it, when you're ready, you get it. And so I think the message is for everybody, all of you out there listening, the message is, if you want it, it'll all come to you. You'll get it. You'll get the right people, the right books. And if you want to be cheated, you'll get the wrong people and the wrong books. It's like you have to be sincere, because you can think you're making spiritual advancement when you're not. Because a lot of people don't really want to do what they have to do, and they'll find some other process. I did other processes, and I realized, no, those aren't genuine. So you'll get it. Whatever you need, it'll be given to you if you want it. If you're sincere, that's what you want. You don't have to worry about it. And when you take up the process, all the realization you need and all the spiritual strength you need, it'll come through the practice if that's what you want, if you're sincere.
And if you don't want it and you're feeling like really inspired by what's being spoken in this conversation, what could be really powerful is to pray for that intention and say,
you can pray for it.
I don't have a desire for any spiritual realization. I don't have a desire for any of this stuff. But hearing this, I'm feeling this energy building up in my heart. pray for it. Just
Yeah.
put your hands together. Keep it simple. It doesn't need to be a long prayer that takes an hour to compose. Just fold your hands and say, dear God, dear universe, dear divinity, dear Krishna, whoever that is for you, please teach me or please show me what it means to have a desire for spiritual realization. Please, plant that in my heart. Plant a desire for spiritual
Or
realization.
help me realize the limitations of what I can gain materially,
Right.
the fame, the wealth, the success. Where does that lead? Help me have that experience that this is not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something greater than that.
Mm.
Pray, like you say, pray. Pray to have the desire if I don't have it. But I would say also, if you're in that position, find people who have the desire and be with them, because by their presence, being in their association, it's infectious, and that desire will come to you. I think you all have that desire. It's just how much it surfaces, and in the association of people who have that desire, it starts to sprout, and it's so easy.
Yeah, so then Sachinananda Swami gives this analogy. I'm sure you got it from somewhere else also. That he asked the question to an audience. He said, if I gave you a lotus flower, how do you extract the nectar from that lotus flower? He asked the audience, and someone says, boil it. You boil it, and then you evaporate the water, and you get the nectar. And I said, get a pestle and mortar, crush the flour, really try and extract the juices that way. And so many answers came out like this. And then eventually, His Holiness, he alluded, he said, why don't we just go and find the honeybees? The honeybees know how to extract the nectar from the lotus flower. So why don't we just go and try and find them? Yes, we live in an age where nowadays authority is almost demonized. We kind of say, you're saying you know what you think you know, but I don't trust you because you're claiming to be an authority on something. But I think that we've always learned through some sort of authoritative testimony, and discounting that just because we live in an age where the internet is so available, just discounting that authority, that's also seeing that as an authoritative testimony. We're believing in something that's on our phone as being higher than those who have actually experienced and realized it.
Yeah.
And so if you want to try and develop a desire for spiritual realization or transcendental experiences, then go into that association, try and find the honeybees, so to say.
Yeah.
And
totally.
I found that a really powerful analogy.
And another icing on this to all your listeners is you don't have to believe any of this,
Right.
But we just ask you be open and try it, because then you can make your own decision. I'm saying I have all these realizations because I did this process, but that's me, and you're like, well, that's you. Like, exactly, and you don't need to believe any of it, but I would just at least be open to the possibility that it may exist, because millions of people have experienced it. So, there's a large number of people who experience something, and they're saying, this is better than anything I've ever experienced materially. And a lot of these people have experienced a lot of high things materially. Mm-hmm. And they're saying that. So, maybe you believe it, maybe you don't. But that's a heavy thing to say, and it's a heavy thing to overlook, because we're all trying to be happy.
It's a heavy thing to overlook. I love that. And if you've not met one of these millions of people that have had spirit, then just send it out. Even if you're not a prayerful person, maybe when I said prayer, someone got triggered by that. Maybe that's not your way of finding, but just send it out. Send out that vibration, send out that energy that I want to be in the association, or I want to be in friendship with persons who are aspiring for spiritual
Well,
realization.
Something that's such a heavy idea is that you become like your 5 closest friends.
Fully, yeah.
On like every level. If you talk to financial people, they say, you are as rich as your 5 closest friends. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, I got to get rid of those friends. The lingo. Well, I was young. I had friends go to Hawaii. We're all surfers. They come back speaking Hawaiian. We don't know what they're talking about, Ya, brah, Bra means brother,
Brother.
Yeah. So all this talk, or Jamaica, yaman, cool man. So you just become that. It's subconscious. You can't not become that. It's just the way it is. So it's. I was giving a lecture to a lot of new spiritual practitioners a few months ago, and they they were living in a kind of an ashram situation where they were all together learning yoga teacher training, and they were all going to be leaving. And they said, well, teach me how I can maintain my spiritual life when I go, because their idea was, well, how do we keep our spiritual practices? And I didn't even talk about that. I said, the most important thing is your environment, because you're going to be completely affected by your environment. So who are you going to associate with? What kind of environment you're going to surround yourself with, because that's going to totally manipulate you. No matter what your intention is, environment's more powerful than intention. So I think, it's super important for people to understand that if you have an intention to be like a certain person or have a certain level of consciousness, you better be around people that have that consciousness. You better be in an environment that supports it, because you can't go against the environment. We're not that strong. We're not transcendental. We're not avatars. Avatars can do that. Till you become an avatar, don't try that at home. So I think that's super important. You like figure out who you want to be. Like you're saying, maybe I don't have the desire, need to pray for it. Well, be in an environment where that desire is going to awaken. Be around people. Be around spiritual processes, because I've seen this so clearly in myself and others. All of you can go very, very high, or you can go very, very low, and you're the same person, just depending on your environment.
Yeah. When I first started aspiring for sharing more and more, and it was a desire of mine that I wanted to do something in the world that was going to be of some use, then one of my mentors, name drop moment, Jay Shetty, he's a personal friend, and I asked him, I said, so what do you reckon? How do I go about this? The first thing he said to me, he said, find in the world 5 persons that you genuinely admire. It may not be their character, but by the way they share, the style in which they share, and just ferociously study them. Just really understand what they did. Because he said, there's no one that's done it in a completely unique way. Everyone has taken a little bit from here, a little bit from there. And so when people ask often, they say, okay, I'm trying to do X, Y, Z, or I'm trying to be X, Y, Z. How do I do it? The first thing I say is, who are the 5 people that you admire the most that embody that? Who are the 5 people that have achieved that goal? I want to be, I don't know, a musician. What kind of musician do you want to be? Who are your musical influences? And just ferociously study them. And when someone says to me, no, I'm trying to carve out a new path, in my head, automatically alarm bells start ringing, because I'm like, there's always someone. We've lived in how many generations of people that have done it. Yes, the detail may have changed of how exactly, but the principle is still very much intact. This conversation has been awesome. I've really enjoyed it. Everyone's nodding furiously in the background. The team are going crazy. They're nodding furiously. We need to get you back for an episode 2. I think this has to happen.
Well, I have to say something. This is really funny. And this is like we were talking about teachers.
Yeah.
Like I've been doing this for 53 years, right? So most of what I'm teaching is because I made all the mistakes. Like I blew it multiple times. So when I'm saying this is how to do it, it's not like I was born that way. It was like, no, I did it the wrong way. So now I can tell you. So that's the beauty of staying on a path for a long time. If you want to be a teacher, go ahead and fall on your face, because once you do, you can tell everybody, this is how not to do it.
Right.
And then you figure out how to do it. And then, so that's the beauty of sticking it out over the long run. And you can, and the beauty of it is that the people who are newer to the path, they don't have to make the same mistakes. So my whole mood as a teacher is like, I'm going to save you. Like in one book I wrote, it said it took me 50 years to write this book, because it was all my realizations that took that long to nurture, to
fructify.
Yeah, to fructify. So, and my meditation was, well, this is really good, because all you who are 20 and 30, you don't have to make the same mistakes, because I can give you the realizations. It's like, I already know, don't do this, do that. This is what works, this what doesn't work. So I feel like as a teacher, as an older person, that's what I should be doing.
Yeah,
know?
And it's a blessing, actually. Like I was speaking to His Holiness Indradumna Swami, who I wanted to get on the podcast, didn't work out. We'll try and get him another time. But he was saying some really kind words to me about the way in which I'm presenting. And the first thing that came to my mind was, but I'm standing on your shoulders. I'm learning from, like, we're in a unique situation, I think, right now in the Bhakti world, in that we have the amazing access to those who have been there since the beginning.
Yes.
And we're sitting in a situation where we can draw from that legacy whilst also somewhat forging a new path. We don't have to hold on to the burdens and the mistakes and whatever happened in institutions. And, I'm talking candidly about the Hare Krishna movement. We don't need to own those mistakes in the way that, we're still living those mistakes. No, we can forge a new path, whatever that means. We can go into that. But I've never done this on a podcast before, but I'm begging for your blessings because, I'm standing on your shoulders and you allow me to do so. And your generation have done so much for us that it would be a disaster and a tragedy if my generation didn't take that on to try and to do something about it. It'll be a unique situation lost, a unique opportunity lost.
That's a great realization. And we're always there supporting you.
Thank you.
Blessing you.
Thank you.
And I love that realization. Yeah, it would be. Like, so much has come before you. So, we started pretty much with nothing.
Right.
We didn't really know what we were doing. We didn't have seniors. We were all young people on the path. It was new in America. It was new to the world outside of India. And it's our great pleasure to see everyone take what we've discovered and build on it and take it to the next level. And, that's our great happiness.
We're going to close with some, I say quick fire, but this is like a rare opportunity for us to not do quick, let's call it long fire. Is that allowed?
Oh, those 5 questions.
I'm looking at Kaylee, he's the audio engineer, and he's like, bloody hell, Radhika, you've already made this an hour-long podcast. Like, give me a break, mate. But long fire. Okay, we'll try and keep it somewhat summarized. What's something you're curious about right now in your life?
Curious about my life right now? I'm just curious. I'm always curious about what makes people do what they do, like why they do it. Because a lot of times they do the wrong things.
Mm-hmm.
And if I know why, I can help them. And also curious about why I do what I do so I can understand myself so I can do better and be able to kind of minimize the wrong or correct it so I have the right why.
It just reminds me of Simon Sinek, start with why.
Yeah.
Interesting. Question number 2. What's something you're personally working through at the moment?
I think I'm always working through humility because I always see the possibility for humility and the possibility for ego, like all the time.
Wow.
And when the ego comes, I always look and I go, what are you doing? I didn't call you. I don't want you. Or maybe not only the ego, but I'm just the conditioning. It's always looking at, I'm going this way. Why are you trying to tell me to go this way? I think we're always dealing with that. It's just as you evolve, it's more this direction and less this side. But when this side comes up, it's like, why? I thought I had thrown you in the dustbin long ago. So I think we're always, me at least.
Mm-hmm. What's incredible about the way in which you answered that was that I asked this question pretty much to everyone that comes on the podcast, and some people have to take a little moment to just think what they're personally working through, and this gave me kind of insight into, this is authentically your life right now, that you're actually personally working through it.
Well, I had this experience. We had a festival and we were doing kirtan, and I was thinking about humility because humility is the essence. You really want to be in this humble spirit when you're chanting because you're calling out for help. And I was thinking when I began bhakti, I thought, and everyone who begins bhakti thinks all the bhakti practitioners are very, very elevated and they're way, way on the bottom. So you're respecting everyone. And then I was thinking, respecting everyone is like the highest level of spirituality. And then at the beginning, I was granted that blessing. We're all granted that blessing to be able to respect everyone. And in that state, we can chant beautifully as very, very young practitioners. But as we become endowed with more spiritual power, there's the idea that I am somebody. I am better than you, better than him, better. And that ruins everything. So as I progress and become more successful, I always have to battle that. You've got empowerment, you're very advanced. And I always have to think, no, I am not the best. I have to respect and appreciate everyone. So
Wow.
it's like I'm always aware of that, like all the time, that challenge.
Incredible. Question number 3. In short, what legacy would you like to leave behind in the world?
I'm trying to leave a legacy by example. That's the main thing, because I'm very conscious of what I do as an example to others. I've been attacked by a lot of people falsely, not regularly, but there was a time. And I teach forgiveness, and I'm very aware that people are looking at me. Well, how are you dealing with this? And I'm very aware that I'm being challenged. So I'm very conscious that I want to be an example of everything I teach, and that's the legacy I want to leave, because that's what I want everyone to do. I said, if you embody your own tradition, you embody what you believe, you embody what you teach, and if I can do that, I think that will have the greatest effect on people, more than what I teach. That this is how he lived by this.
Incredible.
So that's what I want to do.
Incredible. I think that comes out very much in
And my book,
episode,
Living the
yeah.
Wisdom of Bhakti, that's what it's about.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
What's it called, sorry?
Living the Wisdom of Bhakti.
Living the Wisdom of Bhakti
Yeah.
by Mahatma Das. Check it out. Buy it now. Get on Amazon Kindle. Get it right now. I'm telling you. I'm going to do it myself. Question number 4. Something you used to deeply value, but don't value as much anymore.
Oh, no. What is it? Maybe position. Because it's like when you have it, it's like when you want something and you don't, it's not really good for you. You just get it. And when you get it, it's like, So I didn't, we all want some recognition, some honor. That's just being human, even on the spiritual path. So that was naturally there. And I got so much of it. It's like embarrassing. Like yuck. Like just being nobody is like more fun, So, yeah.
Wow.
But there's one thing I want to say. When people honor us, one great spiritual master said, whenever you're honored, you should think whatever they're telling you is how you should become. Not that you are that, but you need to become that. So I always try to remember that. Yeah, that's very good.
Incredible. Thank you so much. This has been a wonderful episode. I think that there's been so many moments, like a part of me always thinks about what is going to be the short form video that's going to go on Instagram, that's going to attract people to this conversation. I'm going to have a hard one on this one. This is going to be hard to kind of find everything. Every single moment was, it could have been, what's the word? It's a sutra. Could have been a sutra. And so I really appreciate that. And thank you so much for being an honorable guest on our podcast. Hope we'll get another episode in, right? I'm looking at Radha Rahman, our assistant. Hopefully we'll get another episode in. But thank you so much. And to all the listeners, please share what you took away. Please write down in the comment section. Please share it with a friend. Please discuss it. I think oftentimes our conversations can be so to-dos, but let's make our conversations more about to-bes. Let's use these conversations that we're bringing forward in these podcasts to really challenge your to-bes in life and what kind of character you kind of want to embody in the world. And I think there are a lot of sutras in this conversation that will do that for you. Tell a friend on Instagram, tell a friend on all the social media platforms that this conversation is happening. It's a weekly conversation, and I can't wait to see you on another episode of Soul's Sake. Thank you all so much. Namaste. Haribol.
For soul's sake, for soul's sake, for soul's sake, for soul's